Padding?
You'll have that later. I don't know. Not sure. No, I didn't leave anything.
Do you not have it?
Have what?
Or is it the chicken?
No, I didn't. I had some, but I haven't finished it.
Because it's like all the onions and tomatoes and peppers were left.
Oh, is it? Oh, I don't know. Must be. I don't know. I'm left. I don't know.
So it wasn't here then?
No.
But my mum just took the chicken.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, I asked him to have it, but I don't know why he didn't have all the other
Okay.
bits.
Okay. Right.
What's wrong with all the other bits? Okay. Let's get dressed. Huh? You'll be dressed before me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why?
Because you're getting dressed now.
Lucky girl.
I had a shower last night. That's what she's singing. You know the song. Ring on it. That ring on it. What? Let's get you. Let's Are you ready for it then?
Yep. I'm just preparing the screen shares and everything. Josh.
That's ready. Nickels. No, you used to call it. Nickels. Is it? I think so. Yeah. Tank top and got jumper on. Underskirt or something. That's ready. Let's have a wash now.
And you can have your book.
It's just in my
This is 123.
because it needs to. I have to wash you. Yeah, so put it back on again since you had the wash. Yes. And you can have them. That's why I got those out, clean ones. Yeah. So that you can have clean bits. You like that, don't you?
Very.
Oh, your face looks a bit dry. Not cleaning your face. Dry. Dry. That clean likes you. It's like me. The one on top of the wardrobe.
Yeah.
What?
It likes you more than it likes me. I've got something like that. Four likes you.
Right, so it's all set up. Nobody can see you.
Maybe lift them up. Oh, it looks much clearer now. Is your back scratching you at all? Don't need an itch or anything. cold. You catch cold.
Andrew.
Cold. Yeah. And then get some cream. That's it. Even though it doesn't need it. I think I've got a I've got a bum sore now.
Well, I didn't say.
Doing my office work too much.
I'm just gonna over. Maria. Sorry.
Never mind, Mr. Giant. Never mind.
Watch that here.
She can. No, she's muted. She go right. We're live. You can't swear. Hello, Maria. You're muted. If you want to speak to me, maybe you don't want to speak to me.
I didn't want you. I didn't think you wanted to hear my voice. You see.
I do. I love your dulcet tones. Especially a song was named after you. What are we going to do about Maria?
Oh yes.
I'm sure they had you in mind when they did that song.
And it is a continuing problem, isn't
Yeah.
it?
What can I say? How are you doing anyway?
Yes, I'm all right, thank you. And you?
Under the circumstances, with all so many yacht sites. Not only is it's a nightmare for rabbis trying to get the names as well.
I know.
I put my science is testing for my dad.
I know. I'm excited out, to tell you the truth. I'm having a break until May. That's my next year.
Oh, you're literally short-sighted out. I don't know whether.
Yeah.
But it's just got to put that they all were at the same time, that you've had all these multiple kind of.
I know, because they didn't die, thank goodness, in the same year.
Oh,
but
God,
they were the same generation, and they were very, very close to me. I just didn't invent them. I didn't invent them on the top of my head. They were part
I'm sure they didn't. Oh gosh,
childhood and adult life. So it's not just somebody I invented.
I acknowledge November is not your best month for you.
No, it's not. It's
I'm staying clear of you, November.
That's right. Yeah.
So anyway, did you enjoy the service last night?
Yes, I did. I didn't think David came because, to tell you the truth, he said he had difficulty with the previous reform service because he's quite he knows about things and so on, because he did his bar mitzvah, and it is and the Torah, but it finds it coming in new to the reform service. Mind you, we went once to a reform service where live, and we enjoyed it because the rabbi was there, you see, so she took special attention, so anyway, there you are. But that doesn't matter. I was there, and I did enjoy it. I always find her.
Can I be honest with you? I don't enjoy their services so much. I just don't.
Really?
I find there's nobody else in the room. Apart from living up, I find Catholic singing very ordinary, shall we say, compared with our singing.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say that. What I was going to say is, if you are having something sung all the time, virtually all the time, I think it better be a bit, a bit more, a bit better anyway. So
and David accompanying him, it's just not quite the same. I think we're fortunate with what we've got.
Oh, of course.
That's all I can say to me. And the other thing which she doesn't do, which we do, is involve the community. It's her service. I think it's nice if she got volunteers. I wasn't that bothered, didn't mean, but especially with our yacht sites. I know she got you to light the candles.
Yes,
I think it's nice. I always think it's nice to involve the community in the service.
Particularly at the moment.
Yeah. Because what I find happens on Zoom, it's so easy to switch off. More on Zoom than
absolutely.
Because look, around me, I've got the internet. I can check anything. I can check. I've got my phone to check, and nobody can see.
I know.
And there's distractions. The television. I've got people surrounding me. You know what I mean? It's easy to be distracted at home, and so you need to be engaged.
I have got a telephone. I can't help it. It
is
here, and it has rang before, and I had to go into the other room, pick up the other one. So you are not away from everything. You think you are, but you aren't.
Yeah, and this wouldn't happen. Obviously, well, it could happen in short, but it's not quite.
No, it's very rare.
That's why you need to keep everyone engaged, and that's why it's good that we get volunteers, I think, because it keeps people on their toes. And I do watch, also I could do a lot of people watching on Zoom, and I can actually tell generally people seem to be engaged.
Yes, I think you're right.
But I noticed last night there was a few, even the Reform people switching off. In fact, it was quite ironic that there was more from the Liberal, I think, in the end.
Yeah, it was. Steph and Rose did say that, yes, that they were more Liberal than otherwise. Yeah, I was just thinking, how do you manage to actually be connected every weekend virtually to do this? I mean, do you find it sometimes a little bit too
No,
much of
no, I enjoy the services. I really do enjoy it.
you do? Okay,
It's
but you
part of my
are,
routine. I've missed one because I was actually playing football. Yeah, I played in a football tournament, and there's one, but I might cancel it in December. But if I have nothing else to do on a Saturday morning,
yes.
which is generally, yeah, apart from day-to-day things, I enjoy. It's not a big deal.
Okay, so
Um,
you find it,
yeah,
yes.
but the only thing is that luckily it's not the case now. Mum wasn't well for a while, and we had district nurses coming in, so I just blank the screen when that happens. Yeah, if we get
Yeah.
mum, or like now, mum's being seen to, but no, you can't see her.
No,
Uh,
I can't.
so
No.
that can be a little bit distracting, but she's very good. So, so
Yes, she's absolutely marvelous.
yeah,
Yes,
so it's not. As I
she
say,
doesn't interfere with anything. Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, I do enjoy. Well, what I
I do
enjoy
enjoy. I'm glad you do because
the
I think
variety as well.
I think, as they say these days, is a big ask. Not that I want to use that word, but it is particularly. But it is a big ask
Hmm.
for you
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
to be on duty in
Yeah, I
that
know.
office
But
all
the
the
other
time.
point is, not that I'm kind of complaining now, maybe one day I will. There's nobody else to do it. The nature of our community, we're not technically, and I'm not that brilliant technically.
Oh, you've
Stephen,
done
Stephen
wonders.
can help out a little bit. Hepzibah sometimes helps out, but they're not always available. And
Yeah,
there's nobody else that can do it. Adrian, it's difficult because of his device. It's
that
not
is
ideal for. Uh,
really.
yeah,
Yeah.
ideally, I'd like a few young spring
Where?
chickens coming in who
Show me,
technically,
show me where they are, and
yeah, if only I could find them. And that
if
is
you
that.
find them, I can give them a phone call.
Oh gosh, please. So mm,
No,
that puts a little bit of pressure
oh,
on.
it
The
does. It
only
does.
one, the only time I don't like it, hopefully it won't happen today, if somebody rings me 5 minutes before the service or before a meeting, and it
Yes.
happens nearly every meeting, what is the code or how do I get onto this meeting, even though they had pre warnings on how to do it. Yeah, they have the
Yeah,
email
yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever. And literally 5 minutes, yeah, you just want to get into it, and then I've got to go
Does it
back.
change?
But that's the same one. But no, what do I send it? We normally send 2 days before what the thing is. I think they
Yes.
sometimes use old links or something,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and that is my only real pet hate. Uh,
Yeah.
and also, maybe you've done it when people ring up and say, "Oh, I've heard you're an expert," and I'm not an expert. I go, no,
I
please,
know. That's
yeah,
a,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's a that sentence, isn't it?
yeah,
When
because
people tell
believe me,
you
I'm
you are
not,
an expert,
and it puts,
knowing full well you want an expert, but it's not quite the case. But it would do to me if
yeah,
somebody said to me, "Oh, you are an expert on." I'm not an expert on anything.
yeah.
That's my
It puts
expertise. I'm not an expert on anything.
it puts lots and lots of pressure
Oh,
on.
pressure. This is it.
This is
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
I'd love,
Expectations.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But we got Rania's coming in the room.
Is she still in Paris?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So,
Yes.
but no, I'm far from an expert. If it's easier to say that you're useless. Hello, Rania. Shabbat shalom. Yeah,
It is. It is.
I find it easier to say I'm useless, and then if I do well, I
Yeah.
exceed people's expectations.
Yes. Yes. Lots of people play that game. It's quite a thing to do.
Yeah. Shabbat shalom, Rania. You're on mute if you want to speak to us. Maria doesn't bite.
No, not from this distance.
Not from this distance. She's when close to, she's dangerous, but that's another story.
That's another story.
Oh, here.
Yeah, you're right.
Shabbat
So,
shalom, everyone. Shabbat
Oh,
shalom.
hello.
How are
Bonjour.
you?
bonjour, Manure.
Bonjour, bonjour. Comment ça
Bonjour,
va?
bonjour. Ça va bien? Et vous?
Ah, eh ben, très bien aussi. Oui, oui.
Can you stop speaking in German?
I hadn't said a word in French for ages. I
Mm.
haven't read a book in French. That's
In Portuguese, maybe. Hannah Zahir, well done.
not even that. No, I'm reading.
I always get worried at this stage when the rabbi and the singer doesn't turn up.
Oh, I would.
I'm
I
not
would
taking the
because
service.
you would have to rabbi and singer at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Don't
but you
ask
don't
me.
want that. We want to encourage people.
Oh,
Good morning, Hannah.
Sit down here, yeah, and I'll put your trousers on.
Hannah's on mute.
A little bit.
This is. I'm going to get a. Lindsay and Adrian are here now. I'm going to get a sign. Please unmute.
I never know whether you want to or not, but it will
No, it's
probably-
when this time. This is a good time to speak.
Yes,
And
of
then a little
course.
bit kiddish. It gets a bit hectic. I think everyone just sort of wants to have
Yeah,
their wine
that's
or whatever, and then
yeah,
go.
yeah.
You've got the Zaxis in. Hello, Adrian and Lindsay.
And then put your trousers on this way.
Hello, Shabbat Shalom,
Yes.
everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Yes,
Shalom.
Shabbat
Good
shalom.
to see you.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Mum. To Shabbat Shalom in the background. Hi, Pat. And Paul. Oh, Paul's hiding.
Hello,
No,
everybody.
yeah, Paul's not
Yeah,
hiding.
Hannah.
Paul's in.
Shabbat Shalom, Hannah.
Lovely to see all these faces. It's like
Yeah, I always,
Familiar faces.
yeah. I always get panicky at this stage when there's no rabbi and no singer.
you're doing
He's
Okay.
upset.
Hiding.
If you
They're
want to hear,
hiding.
if you want to hear me sing, then that will
Now that will switch everybody off, will it?
exactly. We need to encourage people. So I'm sure they'll be here eventually. But we're all doing okay, are we? Hello, hello. Everyone's looking serious. Although they're muted. Oh, we've got. I think this might be Charlie. But the rabbi might be arriving.
Oh.
Might
Okay.
be something called liberal Judaism.
You can hear the fanfare.
Yeah, it is. Hey, the rabbi's here.
Ah, hooray!
Welcome, Charlie.
Hello,
You've got
Rhonda, how
you've
are
got
you?
two halot on your head.
I know.
Is that what's going to be?
Crazy hair today, and
Yeah,
I
so we're going to cut your hair for Kiddush, aren't we?
yes, you can cut my hair for Kiddush, and I've also put my glasses down somewhere, so
And you can't find where they are. So
can't
if you had your
Oh
glasses
dear,
on,
that's
you'd
the story
find
of my life.
so I've no idea where they are. So we'll see what happens in terms of what the service looks
Oh
like.
God, make up as you go along. That's what we normally do.
Actually, that's a good point, Re Kiddush. Is somebody going to lead Kiddush?
Well, it varies. Well, normally we expect, but what we do if somebody's got some bread or something, they can do a motzi.
Perfect.
Gosh, I have to get my glass. Oh dear, dear.
Your glass, yeah, you already had one. It's not quite 1 o'clock yet. Welcome, George. Welcome to Solomon's.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Hello, Rania. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Hannah. How are you?
I'm okay.
Good.
Thank you.
We've got
Good.
Charlie. We've got an international presence. Ranya's tuning in from Paris.
Oh, lovely.
Hello, Charlie.
Hi, Rania.
And we, in fact, we had somebody from Denmark last week. Arthur Bookman from Denmark.
Buckman, yeah,
Oh
from
yes, that's right.
care of our Copenhagen community.
Yeah, so it's quite good. So we're
Oh,
getting
that's nice.
an international feel to our services, and somebody from South London as well. That's how
South
far.
London.
Oh
It's
my
really-
gosh, yes, that is the other side of the world.
Yeah, if it was down to me, I'd build a wall across South and North London. But
I feel like South London's partly my patch still.
oh, of course, sorry. Oh gosh, careful what I say.
No, I mean, I grew up this side of the river, but still spent a long time the other side.
The other side of the
Charlie, I wanted to ask you, did you have relatives in Elm Road in Wembley?
Amsterdam, yes, that was my
Amsterdam,
grandmother.
you?
Oh
Your
my
grandmother.
God,
I
yes.
tell
It's
you
my grandmother. So my uncle and my dad grew up there. We're the only Baginskis, as far as I know.
I'll tell you why I remembered. Obviously, it's a memorable name, but I used to collect for Jewish Women's Week along Avenue, and I remember, year by year, knocking.
Talking about the Baginski family.
Oh,
I think there's not that many around.
There aren't. No, that was my grandmother, and her partner was a member of the Liberal community. She was a member, nominally at least, of the United States.
Yes. That makes sense. I grew up in the United States.
Your cousin who asked to remember two parents.
Okay, I've got good news. Joseph has arrived. I was worried
Oh,
that.
good.
Good news for all of us.
Otherwise, me and Charlie would have been doing the singing, and that would have
been disastrous.
Yeah, it would have been.
Joseph knows well.
So, welcome, Joseph. The other thing,
Charlie, last night I spoke to my cousin in New York, and she asked to be remembered to you.
And your parents.
And to your parents.
Yeah, yeah.
Her name is, it was Susan Heine.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, well,
do you remember?
I tell you why I laugh is because we have Susan's like a story in our house.
I can imagine.
Yeah, my grandmother and my when she was alive, and my dad and my uncle would tell Susan Heine stories.
Yeah.
Well, there's a few more we could add.
I'm sure. But we're on live stream, so we probably should.
Oh yeah, careful. Yeah, we ought to keep again on live stream.
I will tell my dad. He will be so pleased.
And Susan would love to hear from them.
Yeah.
Is she on Facebook?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I get dad.
Sorry, on FaceTime.
FaceTime.
We
FaceTime.
usually communicate with her on FaceTime.
Okay, well maybe what I'll do is I'll speak to my dad and I can send you his email address.
Okay. Yeah.
With
I won't give it live online.
Yeah, with the Vulcans.
Yeah. I know who you are. I just didn't know the connection. But I will tell him. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so just before we start, Joseph. Hi, Joseph. We're glad you picked up. I was practicing my singing. Do you want to do a quick sound check?
The cat's arrived, so we can start.
That sounds fine. Perfect. So we've got no problem there. Charlie, what you might just to kind of, with the Yorkshire list, including mine, there's some difficult names there.
Oh no, there he goes again.
It's all Maria's fault. If there's anything, if you want, my surname is Giants, like giants.
Yes.
Okay, and Maria, if you want to kind of guide Charlie, because
it's not complicated. It's my mother's first name is the only thing difficult. It is Gertrudes, and rather than Gertrude, it's Gertrude.
So
but
let me get the pronunciation right again, Maria, with me.
Yes, Gertrude. Fine, absolutely fine. And the surname is Camillo, which is completely phonetic, so it's okay. And then there is a Fernanda Camillo, Fernanda, also totally phonetic, and Camillo. And there is, what is there, for God's sake? Oh, Lucinda Rodrigues. Rodrigues is with an S, not with a Z, so it is a silent sound.
Tell me again.
And there is another Camilo, but I can't remember who she is.
Oh, don't worry. Listen, Charlie, we will forgive you if it's not spot on.
Will you? Okay.
My mother-in-law, that's easy enough. Lillian Landau, like me. Yeah. Okay. So
we'll test you.
No, please, no. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Charlie, do you want to allocate sort of the mitzvahs in advance, or shall we play it by ear? Well, how do you prefer it?
Sure, let's allocate. What do you want to do? So we're going.
Maria, what would you like? Would you like to do the blessings for the Torah?
That makes me. Oh, the blessing for the Torah. Yes.
Before and after. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. That is the only. There is the bit we have to repeat. Is the second phrase, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've done that before.
Yeah.
So I think I can do it. Let me just
okay, that's fine. Now the prayers for the royal family, the Prime Minister and Donald Trump. Who wants to do those?
Oh, please God.
Any volunteers at this stage? Don't rush. I'm looking. I can see Alan's hand up. So Alan, okay. So you've got the first prayer. What about one for the community? The first one. Already up to the community. Anna could do the community, and who wants to do for the state of Israel?
I'll do.
Let's put all. I think George just beat Paul.
Paul, let's find you something else.
Yes. Anything?
They're better with things that are responsive.
Yeah, how about them doing a responsive, perhaps? Pat and Paul are quite good at responsive prayers in the same room.
Sure, lovely. When we get to one, it's all yours.
Okay. Anything else you want to allocate? It's up to you. You're in charge.
I mean, does anybody else want to read in the service? In which case, we can just pass the reading as we go round. That's fine with me. I have absolutely no desire to hear my own voice.
You might end up not doing any of the service.
That's
you
fine.
never know.
I'll go.
Actually, how about Rosemary? Do you want to take the sermon, and then we can have Linda to read the Torah portion without the house? How about that? No, I'm only joking, Rosemary.
It's okay. I've written a sermon. You're all right.
It's all right. How about a Lador? Are you doing a Lador? I can never say Lador, Joseph. Yeah. Does anyone want to do a door echo? Rania, if you wish. Oh, sorry. Hannah. Next week, maybe. That's okay. That's fine.
I'll be the echo.
Yeah. Anybody else? Does anyone want to do Lamantis Karoo? Oh, Danielle, would you like to do Lamantis?
All right, I'll do it if you want.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm going to go onto my computer. I was just eating my breakfast, so I'll move.
Fair enough.
Oh, Danielle, finish your breakfast first. You've got some time.
Yeah.
I'll log off and re-log on my computer.
I was warning those who were on before that I've misplaced my glasses somewhere anyway, so we might get all sorts of things in this service.
Yeah, it'll be a different form of Hebrew. So.
Oh, you see, my other alternative is to wear my sunglasses, which have lenses in, but that seems a little odd.
That would look like the mafia.
That would be a bit spooky, wouldn't it?
It would be a bit spooky. It's not enough that we're on screen and then not really to be able to see most of my face, I think.
Oh dear.
Okay, right. I mean, you can see where Stephen is. He's in our sanctuary virtually.
He's virtually in your sanctuary. I like that.
Yes, it's lovely to see that, Stephen, because it does sort of remind us of of our
feels like home.
I feel a little bit at home. And welcome, Dario, as well. It's good to see you again.
Thank you. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom to you. Well, I think we're almost ready to go. Are you ready, Charlie, Joseph? Are you?
I was born ready.
Oh, hey. Okay. Well, Charlie begins. I don't think Charlie needs much introduction, but I want to introduce that. We welcome Charlie.
Maybe we should all mute ourselves.
Yeah, we are. We do. I'd like to do. I'm going to mute you all soon. I just like to. Welcome, Charlie. I'm going to mute everyone, including me. Then Charlie. Actually, Charlie, are you going to do any screen sharing or anything like that?
I don't think so.
So we don't need to make you a co-host or anything like that.
Quite happy to avoid that responsibility.
Good, fair enough. So, okay, welcome, Charlie. I'll leave up to you. People, obviously, Charlie is known for good work for liberal Judaism, and it's a great honour to have you with us. And thank you for fitting in your busy schedule, sort of preparing for this service. We really look forward to it. I'm going to mute everyone, and obviously, you know how it works. That if you're invited to do a prayer or something, then just unmute yourself and then mute yourself again. But we're all going to be muted now. Then Charlie and Joseph, if you unmute. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody, and I'm not sure about an honour for you, but it's certainly an honour for me to be with you. It's such a joy with this job to be able to be in so many different communities, and also, even though physically, geographically, I am near to you, it is great with Zoom that I could be in one community in the morning and another in the afternoon. So it's really lovely to be here and be able to lead a service. I was saying to my kids this morning that it's the first time in quite a while that actually I have led a Saturday morning Shabbat morning service. So rather than being invited to do AGMs and chair meetings, so really delightful to be here, and to be able to lead the service with Joseph as well is lovely. So we are doing today Shabbat morning service number 1, which can be found in your Siddur or on the Liberal Judaism website. If any of you are following from there, it's under Shabbat resources at home, but it's Shabbat morning service, and that is on page one. And I don't know how you've been working it online, but my rule is you stand up if you want to stand up, you stay seated if you want to stay seated. I'm not going to tell you to stand up, sit down. You do what you feel comfortable and what works with your camera and your computer setup. But we're on page 105 and we're going to begin with Martha Vu.
Sorry,
And at the bottom of page 105.
Yeah, Joseph, sorry to interrupt. At the beginning, there seemed to be problems with the sound, but it's improved. Is that?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so I think it was okay towards the end, so we'll keep going. Thank you.
As we say the prayers of our ancestors, help us, O God, to remember their faith and devotion, their joy and suffering, and make us worthy of their heritage. May the tradition we have received live in us and pass from us to generations we shall never know, enriched by the truth we have found and the good we have done. So may we fulfill our task on earth and receive our blessing. Eternal God, school us in your teachings and make us loyal to your commandments. May we never consent to evil or surrender to temptation or self-contempt. Help us to rise above selfishness and make us responsive to the voice of conscience. Direct our every impulse to your service. Today and every day may we merit kindness and compassion in your sight and in the sight of all who behold us, and let us know your love.
We praise you, O God, for the love you daily show us.
Suri umiskabi, erog lefanecha, shachri agamari, lifnei gadulata, emoba evael, kin hatire, konak shvar libi, mazay ashayuchah, alem halashon, lasotu ma'akor, uchi batokibi, hine lachatita, zimratein washalken, odecha yatiei, nishmat Elohabi.
And we're on page 107 at the bottom of page 107. Baruch Shema v'chaya ha'olam, Baruch Hu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, hamahulal b'fi amo, mushubah mufa'a b'lshon chasidav va'avidav, b'shvechot u'bizmerot, negadelcha v'namlichecha, malkeinu yachid chei ha'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, melech mechulal b'tishbachot.
Ashrei Yoshvei Betecha, Od Yachaleluha Selah. Ashrei Ha'am Shekachalo, Ashrei Ha'am she'Adonai Elochav.
And we come now to a responsive reading on page 108, on page 108. And I believe we have some responsive readers for our responsive reading.
Always I will exalt you, my sovereign God,
and praise your name forever.
beginning each day with praise.
I will extol your name forever.
Cause us to see your greatness is beyond us,
Eternal One, forever to be praised.
declaring your works to each generation,
We bear witness to your mighty acts.
even as they speak of your splendor.
So I will meditate on your wonderful deeds.
For as they tell of your awesome might,
So I will recount your greatness.
great is your goodness, which they celebrate,
As they sing of your righteousness.
holding us in your grace and compassion.
You are patient and abounding in love.
In your goodness, eternal God,
You have mercy on all your creatures,
joyfully your works shall thank you,
and your faithful ones shall praise you.
knowing how great is your majesty.
They proclaim their might,
Let all humanity perceive your power.
and the glorious splendor of your redemption.
Mighty is your rule and everlasting.
Your reign endures in all generations,
O God, you support the falling,
and raise up all who are bowed down.
pleading, all look in hope to you.
And you give them their food in due season,
Quietly you open your hand.
and satisfy the needs of every living creature,
Righteous are you in all your ways.
and loving in all your deeds.
So near are you to all who call upon you.
To all who call upon you in truth.
The desire of those who revere you, you fulfill.
You hear their cry and help them.
Unceasingly our lips shall sing God's praise.
So may all creatures laud God's holy name forever.
Va'anachnu נברכיה מעתה ועד עולם. הללויה. ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו, האל המלך הגדול והקדוש, בשמיים ובארץ, כי לך נאה אדוני אלוהינו, אלוהי אבותינו, שיר ושפחה, הלל וזמרה, ברכות והודאות, מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוטה בשירי זמרה.
And we're going to go to the Baruch Hu now, on page 135, bottom of 135.
Nine, 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 nine. Nine, 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 nine. Nine, 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 nine. Yeah, nine, 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 nine. Yeah, nine, 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 nine. Nine, 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 nine. Yeah, nine, 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 nine. Nine, 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 nine. Baruch Hu et Adonai, Amen.
And we continue on page 136. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzei or uvorei choshech, osei shalom uvorei et hakol. Amayeh la'aretz veladarim alecha barachamim, uvtuvo machadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh bereshit. Ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai, kulam b'chochma asita, mela ha'aretz kinyanecha. Titbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shevach ma'aseh yadecha, va'al morei or she'asita, ya'afrucha sela. Baruch atah Adonai, yotzei hamorot. Great is your love for us, eternal God, and abundant your compassion. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you taught them the laws of life. So be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with love to uphold the truths of your Torah. Enlighten us with your teaching. Make us faithful to your commandments and wholehearted in the love and awe of your name. For in love you summon us to serve you and proclaim your unity. We praise you, O God. In love you have called your people Israel to serve you. And we come to the Shema in the middle of page 137. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'achavta et Adonai Elohecha, בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, ושוכבך בקומך. וכשאתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, ובשעריך.
למען תזכרו, ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני, אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות להם לאלוהים. אני, אדוני אלוהיכם.
Good and beautiful and true. Sound, established and enduring are these words now and forever. True it is, Eternal One, that you are our sovereign God and Redeemer, as you are the God and Redeemer of our ancestors. You are our Maker, the rock of our salvation. We have known you always as our helper and our liberator. There is no God but you. Truly you are first and you are last. We have no Redeemer but you. You redeemed us from Egypt and freed us from the house of bondage. And with great joy, Moses, Miriam, and all Israel together sang to you this song.
מי כמוך בעלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלי. שירה חדשה שיפרו גאולים, לשמך אספת הים. יחד כולם הודו והמליאו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ידעי די די, ידעי די די, ידעי די 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 די. So Israel, Kuma Bezrat Israel, Koaleinu Adonai Tzavot Shemu, Kadosh Israel, Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Israel.
And we're on page 140 for the Amidah. You can find the Amidah on page 140. Adonai tzafatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'emotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibur, v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol, v'Zocher Hasdei Avot ve'Imaot, U'Mevi Gula Livnei V'neichem, Leman Shemo B'Yachava, Melech Ozer Moshiach Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei Meitim atah Rav Lechoshia, Mashiv Haruach u'Morid HaGeshem, Mazreach HaShemesh u'Morid HaTal.
מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. al kuvurot umidom elad melech memit umechayeh umasmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman ata l'chachayot metim Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hametim.
לקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו, בשמי מרום ככתוב על יד נביאך.
Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzvaot, Alo kol haaretz kavodo.
כבודו מלא עולם.
Baruch kavod Adonai, b'makomo.
במקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך, עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לך.
ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור.
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, קדושתך נקדיש. ושבעה אלוהינו, מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. ברוך אתה אדוני, הארץ הקדוש. ברוך אתה אדוני, הארץ הקדוש.
We're now at the bottom of page 142. You inspired our ancestors to hallow this day for your service. When upon its coming we pause to contemplate our lives, we learn anew that we do not live by bread alone, but also by the spiritual nourishment we receive when we open ourselves to your influence. We thank you for the Sabbath day and for the opportunity it offers to enhance the quality of our lives. We thank you for its joy and for its peace. May our worship help us to take into our hearts its message of holiness and consecrate all our days by devotion to what is true, beautiful, and good.
ישמחו במלכותך, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג, המקדשי שביעי, המקדשי שביעי, כולם יספרו ויתענגו מטובך, והשביעי עשית בו וקידשתו, והשביעי עשית בו וקידשתו. עמדת ימים אותו קראת, זכר למעשה בראשית.
Our God and God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Eternal One, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts, and may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its peace. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath. Eternal God, be gracious to your people Israel, and in your love accept their prayers. May our worship now and always be acceptable in your sight. We praise you, O God, whom alone we worship in reverence. Modim anachnu lach. Shata hu Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu leolam va'ed. Tzor chayenu magei nishenu, atah hu ledor vador. Nodeh lecha nosapeh tehilatecha, al chayenu hamasorim biyadecha, va'al nishmotenu hapekudot lach. Va'al nisecha shebechol yom imanu, va'al niflotecha v'tovotecha, shebechol eit erev v'boker v'tzoraim. Baruch atah Adonai, atov shimcha, u'lecha na'eh lechadot. We praise you, O God, source of goodness, to whom our thanks are due. Joseph, are we singing Sim Shalom, or shall I carry on reading?
I'm happy to sing.
Let's sing.
Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha, Chen v'chesed v'rachamim, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Amecha. Bachenu avinu avinu, kulanu ka'echad, ba'o panecha, ba'o panecha. Ba'o panecha, natata lanu, Adonai Eloheinu. Sim shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Amecha. Torah chayim ve'ahavat chesed, tzedakah uvracha, v'rachamim v'hayim v'shalom. Sim shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Amecha. V'tov be'enecha levarek Tamcha Yisrael ve'et kol ha'amim, v'chol עת v'chol sha'ah b'shlomecha. Sim shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Amecha. Baruch atah Adonai, Osei HaShalom.
We praise you, O God, the source of peace. And just before we take a few moments for some silent prayer, it seems appropriate in every service now to think of those people in our community and communities beyond, in our families, in our world, who are unwell, who are suffering, who are sick, those who need strength, and to spend a little moment in our service to think of them. I'm going to read a prayer in a moment by Jeffrey Spitzer, but if there are any names that people do want to say before the prayer, then please feel free to unmute yourselves now and to mention their names, or just to mention them in your hearts, in your heads, and think of them during the following prayer.
That's a Nikki Anthony.
Just mention my father, who's in hospital at the moment, went in yesterday, but hopefully will be out soon.
Thank you, Stephen. We're thinking of many people, those who we've named, those who are always in our minds, and also those who perhaps cannot be with anybody at this moment. God, who heals all flesh, God who lives in each breath, strengthen your people Israel and all who dwell on earth at this time. Give us blessing and peace of mind. Grant our hearts strength to stand in our places and to stand at this moment of radical change. Provide a complete healing of body and spirit to all who are sick and to all those in need of your healing. And grant to all those who are tending to their needs, to nurses, to doctors, to families, to friends, the power to comfort and heal. When we are alone, may we find times to be at one with you. While we are withdrawn from each other, may we still be with all our friends and family. Enable us to take steps to bring help and assistance in all the ways that we can. Please, God, heal us all. Amen. Let's just take a few moments for some silent prayer. Either just a few moments to be with your own thoughts, or you can find the silent prayer on page 145 of the Siddur.
Shalom, bimama, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol bnei Adam. Oseh shalom bimama, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, vayimaru.
We come now to the center of our service, the Kriyat Torah, or the reading of the Torah in its largest sense, maybe not literally from the scroll, but certainly from the Torah. And you can find that service on page 490. Page, Joseph, is that the one you were expecting, or do you want to do the earlier one?
Either's fine, Charlie. It's fine.
Fine. So on page 490. Assemble the people, the men, the women, and the children, and the strangers in your cities to hear and learn to revere the Eternal One, your God, and observe faithfully all the precepts of this Torah. And let their children who do not yet know it hear, that they too may learn to revere the Eternal One, your God. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Adonai Kadosh Shemo.
Gadlu Adonai iti, u'neromama shemo yachdav.
Adonai, Hagdula, Hagavura, Hatiferet, Hanei Samachot, Kichol Hashamayim u'ha'aretz.
Thank you. And so this morning we're going to be reading from Genesis chapter 25, verses 19 to the end of the chapter. It's from the parasha of Toldot. We're in the really juicy bit of the Torah, really. Not all of it's worth reading, of course, but we're in the bit that you always, if you have children, you want them to have their bar mitzvah in the end of the Torah. So although they miss out on having parties in the garden, they at least always know that they get a good Torah portion if they're born this end of the year. And the bit of the parasha that we're going to read this morning is about is the beginning of this relationship between Jacob and Esau, one that becomes such a paradigm for later relationships, this wrestling in the womb of Jacob and Esau. And we know that they continue to wrestle for many years before they're reunited. And I can see that Kevin has put that up on your screen for you. And we have our Torah blessings. So you can see that. And if we can have the blessing before the Torah, please.
Baruch atah Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vayed. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vayed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ve'ele toldot Yitzchak ben Avraham. Avraham holid et Yitzchak. And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. And Abraham had Isaac. And this is the way we get right the way through the Torah. Many of you will be familiar with it, that despite their clearly being matriarchs and mothers and us knowing a little bit about biology, that it is still the father who almost births the children. ויחי יצחק בן 40 שנה, וחכתו את רבקה בת בתואל הארמי, מפדן ארם, אחות לבן הארמי, לא לאישה. And Isaac was 40 years old when Rebecca, the daughter of Bethuel the Aramean from Padan Aram, who was the sister of Laban the Aramean, when he took her to be his wife. ויעתה יצחק לאדוני לנוחה אשתו, כי עקרה היא, ויעתה לו אדוני ותחר רבקה אשתו. And Isaac entreated the Lord, entreated the Eternal, so begged God on behalf of his wife, because Rebecca was couldn't conceive, she was barren, and the Eternal God let God's self be asked upon, and Rebecca conceived. And the children struggled together in her womb. ותאמר אם כן למה זה אנוכי ותלך לדרוש את אדוני. And she said, if this is the way it's going to be, why do I live? And she went off to ask God. ויאמר אדוני לה, and God said to her, שני גויים בבטנך. There are two nations in your womb. ושני לאומים ממך ייפרדו. And two peoples will be split apart from your bowels. ולאום יאמץ, ורב יעבוד צעיר, and the older shall serve the younger. וימלאו ימיה ללדת. And when the day when she was to give birth came, והנה תאומים בבטנה. Indeed, there were twins in her womb. ויצא הראשון המוני, כולו כעדרת שיער, ויקראו שמו עשיו. And the first came out all red and hairy all over, and they called his name Esau. ואחרי כן יצא אחיו, and after this came out his brother, וידו אוחזת בעקב עשיו. And he was holding on with his hand to Esau's heel. V'ikra shemo Yaakov. And because of this, they called his name Jacob. V'yitzchak ben shishim shana beledet otam. And Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. V'iglu hanarim v'chi Esav ish yodei tzid, ish tzadeh. And as they grew up, Esau was a cunning hunter. He was a man of the field. V'Yaakov ish tam. And Jacob was an ish tam. It's a funny word, tam. The other place we find it was with Noah. And although it's sort of translated as innocent or without blemish, like Noah, we know that Jacob isn't quite without blemish. He is. So this word is somewhat, like often with Hebrew, it's somewhat ambiguous. Yeshev ocholim, and he dwelt in tents. In other words, he stayed indoors while Esau was outside. Ve'achav Yitzhak et Esav, and Isaac loved Esau. Kisa'id befiv, because he had the taste of venison in his mouth, so he liked the food that he brought him. Ve'Rivka ohevet et Yaakov, and Rivka loved Jacob. And we can see these problems are beginning to really develop. Ve'ezed Yaakov nazid, and Jacob made a stew. Ve'avo Esav min hasedeh, and in came Esau from the fields. Ve'hu ayef, and he was really tired. Ve'omer Esav el Yaakov, and Esau said to Jacob, Hayletani na min ha'adam ha'adom hazeh, ki ayef anochi. And he said, give me some of your red stew because I'm really, really tired. Al ken kara shemo Edom. And because of this, they call his name Edom. V'yomer Yaakov, and Jacob said, Micha kayom et b'chotecha li. And he said, first sell me your birthright. V'yomer Esav, hinei anochi holech lamut, v'lama zeh li b'chora. And Esau said, look, I am so on the point of death. What use is this? Is this my birthright to me right now? V'yomer Yaakov, and Jacob said, Yeshiva li kayom, v'yeshava lo, v'yamakor et b'chorato leYaakov. And so Jacob said, well, okay then, swear to me first. And so he did promise him first. And so in this way, he sold his birthright to Jacob. V'Yaakov noten le'Esav lechem u'nazid adashim. And so Jacob gave to Esau bread and this red stew. V'yochal v'yesht, and he ate and he drank. V'yakom v'yelech, and he got up and he went. V'vaz Esav et b'chora. And so Esau despised his birthright. And our blessing afterwards.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher b'tanu lanu torat emet v'hayei olam nata b'toreinu. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Shekach, amen. And we're going to go straight into
Robahu Adonai Eloheinu v'kishtachavu lahakodesho. Robahu Adonai Eloheinu v'kishtachavu lahakodesho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu robahu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu robahu.
And now we'll go straight into our Haftorah. I'm handing over to Kevin.
Just bear with me whilst I share my screen. Hopefully I've got it. Here we are. Can everyone see? Hopefully you can see Proverbs verse 4. Oh, that's 3. Here we go. Whoops, 2. One here. I'll get there in a second.
Hmm.
Oh, here we are. Okay. It can also be found on page 1290 of your JPS Tanakh. So, as I said, I'll be reading from the writing of Proverbs 4. The words are about the practical application of moral and spiritual wisdom gained from our parents. It suggests that as we seek it, find it, hold on to it, and make a daily study of it, wisdom will guide us, to stable us, and protect us. This theme is appropriate for me today. I dedicate this reading to the memory of my father and best friend, Martin Zients, who tried to install in me these values that are mentioned in the reading. So, hang on. Okay, here we go. Baruch. Oh, here we are. Baruch Ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher bachar b'nviim tovim, v'atzah v'divreihem, hamorim ba'emet. Baruch Ata Adonai, haboher b'torah, uv'moshe avdo, uv'Yisrael amo, uv'nvi'i ha'emet v'tzedek. Sons, heed the discipline of a father. Listen and learn discernment, for I give you good instruction. Do not forsake my teaching. Once I was a son to my father, the tender darling of my mother. He instructed me and said to me, let your mind hold on to my words. Keep my commandments and you will live. Acquire wisdom, acquire discernment. Do not forget and do not swerve from my words. Do not forsake her, and she will guard you. Love her, and she will protect you. The beginning of wisdom is acquire wisdom. With all your acquisitions, acquire discernment. Hug her to you, and she will exalt you. She will bring your honour if you embrace her. She will adorn your head with a graceful wreath, crown you with a glorious diadem. My son, heed and take in my words, and you will have many years of life. I instruct you in the way of wisdom. I guide you in the straight courses. You will walk without breaking stride. When you run, you will not stumble. Hold fast to the disciples. Do not let go. Keep it, it is your life. Do not enter the path of the wicked. Do not walk on the way of evil men. Avoid it. Do not pass through it. Turn away from it. Pass it by. For they cannot sleep unless they have done evil. Unless they make someone fall, they are robbed of sleep. They eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of lawlessness. That made me laugh, that bit, for some reason. The path of the righteous is like radiant sunlight, ever brightening until noon. The way of the wicked is all darkness. They do not know what will make them stumble. My son, listen to my speech. Incline your ear to my words. Do not lose sight of them. Keep them in your mind. They are life to him who finds them, healing for the whole body. More than all that you guard your mind, for it is a source of life. Put crooked speech away from you. Keep devious talk far from you. Let your eyes look forward, your gaze be straight ahead. Survey the course you take, and all your ways will prosper. Do not swerve to the right or left. Keep your feet firm from evil. Baruch Ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, Sur kol ha'olamim, Sadiq b'chol hadavot ha'ol, Hanema'an ha'ma'ar, V'aseh ha'daber, Kayim shechol davrav emet v'tzedek. Al ha'torah, v'al ha'vadah, Pan v'yim v'yom ha-Shabbat hazeh, shana talanu, Adonai Eloheinu, B'kedushu mocha, v'kavod u'tifaret, al hakol, Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim lach, u'mvorachim otach, yitbarak shimcha, b'fi kol hai, tamid yalam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And we come now to our community prayers, which you can find on page 493 onwards. And I believe we've got some people to read them for us.
Eternal God, whose dominion embraces the universe, we ask your blessing for our Sovereign Lady Queen Elizabeth and all the royal family, for those who govern our country and all who influence the quality of national life. Make them conscious of their responsibility and teach them to exercise it in accordance with your will. May we all help to fashion in this country a society that excels in freedom and justice, tolerance and compassion, so that it may be a force for righteousness and peace in the life of humanity.
May the one who blessed our ancestors bless all our brothers and sisters of the house of Israel who enter synagogues or create virtual synagogues to pray and to give aid to those in need. May the Holy One to whom all praise is due hear their prayers and help them to fulfill their aspirations for good.
Eternal God, our Rock and Redeemer, grant blessing to the state of Israel, created to fulfill an age-old dream, to be a haven for the oppressed. Inspire its leaders and citizens with faithfulness to the aims of its founders, to develop the land for the benefit of all its inhabitants, and to implement the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice. May they live in harmony with one another and in peace with their neighbors, and cause to come true once more the ancient vision that out of Zion shall go forth Torah and the word of God from Jerusalem.
Yahalelu et Shem Adonai, ki nisgav shemo levado. Thank you to all of you who took part in our Torah service. Some of you may have seen that this Shabbat is a Shabbat that liberal Judaism's rabbis, but also rabbis across the denominations have dedicated in support of Jewish Women's Aid, a really important organization that supports the women and girls suffering from domestic violence. And it's been, we've made many video messages and they've had a lot of support, but it is what many of us will be preaching about this Shabbat. And so it's what I'm going to dedicate my sermon to this Shabbat, but also I know that many of our other rabbis are as well. So please look out for all of our rabbis across the movement and other movements who are supporting Jewish Women's Aid this Shabbat. As I said, this parasha this week that we read was Toldot, and it's really one that's so pivotal for so much of the action that follows in our journey throughout the Torah, and also in our future identity as a people. Indeed, just the name of the parasha, Toldot, meaning generations, is laden with meaning. From the moment we began the parasha, we saw a preview of the struggles to come. There are two twins in the womb whose intertwined destinies and perpetual struggle are right there from the beginning. Only one of the babies, as we know, can be born first, and it's Esau. And he comes out red and hairy, with his brother clinging on to his foot, coming out second. And this is a defining moment for Jacob, whose name means heel, referring to this clutching on of the heel of his brother's foot, and thus in perpetuity is almost defined by his relationship to his brother. Years later, as we know, his name will be changed to Israel, and we become the Israelites, the ones who wrestle and persevere. And yet, he's the only character in the Torah to have his name changed and yet still be referred to by his original name as Jacob. It's as though he can't quite ever shake off this identity of being the one who came in second to his brother. I'm an eldest child, and it's not a great portion for us as older children. In many ways, we get the raw deal, forging the way ahead of our siblings, constantly having to take responsibility for and deal with our younger siblings, stealing our toys or, in this case, inheritance. And this inheritance is significant, for it's at this moment that makes Jacob our ancestor and not Esau. And furthermore, Esau becomes demonized by history, and Jacob, the heel, becomes the hero. I'm not alone in asking myself why it is that history demonizes Esau. Indeed, he becomes the foundational heir for all future persecutors of the Jews. There is nothing apparent in our portion or the ones that follow that seem to provide an adequate answer for this. Maybe he's a little naive when he agrees to sell his birthright to his brother for a bowl of his favorite stew. But as we heard, he was so hungry after spending the day providing for the family that he was not thinking about the long-term consequences. Jacob, on the other hand, seems manipulative and devious, planning with his mother to fool his blind and elderly father. Some commentators see the answer to the demonization of Esau as lying in the verse that said, "Ve'ochal ve'yesht ve'yakom ve'yelech." In other words, he ate, he drank, he got up, he left, and thus did Esau disdain his birthright. This terseness of words is designed maybe to show that Esau gave little thought to his birthright. He was more concerned with the here and now, with his immediate needs, and gives little thought to his future. But rather than see either of the brothers at fault, perhaps we need to take a closer look at their parents. After all, it was Rebekah who planted in her son's mind later on the seed of deception, and Isaac who made it clear that in Esau he had a favorite son. Judaism teaches us that at birth a child receives a pure soul. It's almost possible to see this. When you stare at a newborn child, this tiny human being, we wonder at the possibilities, the abundant potential that lies in this tiny thing. However, it's evident so quickly that each child has its own character. I often hear B'nai Mitzvah parents tell me that their child has always been strong-willed, has always been easygoing, has always been impressionable or outspoken or gentle or strong from the outset. And I see it with my own children. 3 from the same parents experiencing the same nurture, and yet their personalities have been evident for longer than one could possibly be imagining. And Rebekah felt similarly. Midrash tells us that when the children were in her belly and Rebekah would walk past the place of idol worship, Esau would push and squirm in her belly. But when she walked past the study house, then Jacob would lunge forward as though he could break out of her body. And so here were 2 infants born almost with a divine prediction of their own fates. However, we have to ask whether these predictions did indeed deprive them of their real potential. Did Esau end up so unconcerned with his future because his parents thought it would always be like this? Were there chances to shape things differently that they missed out on because everyone assumed they already knew what they would be like? Tradition sees God asking that our children be the guarantors of tradition. On one hand, it's a lovely idea. On the other hand, does it mean that, like Jacob and Esau, they're not allowed to live out their own dreams, but rather fulfill a programmed destiny? This is paraphrased by the psychiatrist Aaron Stern, who writes, "From the time the child is very little, we are programming them, not for their sake alone, but for ours." The shift in the family has been the movement towards narcissism, the loss of the capacity of love. Of course, our children do not always cooperate. Even as toddlers, they look up at you with their large, big eyes and simply say, no. How many of us have blackmailed a child around a supermarket in a way that we always swore we wouldn't? And they just look at us and say, no. There's no reason, there's no excuses, just no. And later on, this continues, as many of us know, they have their own ideas about how they want us to be involved in their lives. Dr. Anthony Wolfe has written a book entitled Get Out of My Life, but First Can You Drive Me and Cheryl to the Mall? American, but we get the point. Somehow there's a fine line to be walked between playing an active part in our children's lives, guiding them and instructing them, and yet also allowing them to develop into the people that they need to be, and not just the people we want them to be. As I said, this Shabbat Liberal Judaism is joining with other Jewish denominations in supporting Jewish Women's Aid and dedicating our sermons to drawing attention to domestic violence. Domestic violence, as many of us know, is the abuse which occurs within an intimate relationship. The partners might be married or unmarried, and statistics show us that it's most likely that the abuser will be male and the victim female. But we also know that this is not always the case, and domestic violence can take place in same-gender relationships in all sorts of different dynamics. Domestic violence encompasses a pattern of control and behaviour exercised by one person over another. The abuse can be physical, sexual, verbal, or emotional, and it impacts on the entire family, injuring also the children who witness abuse by hearing it or seeing it. And we Jews are not immune to the problem of domestic violence. Contrary to many myths in our community, we have never been immune from it. Domestic violence occurs in Jewish families at the same rate as the general population. Yet we do know that Jewish women tend to stay in abusive relationships longer than non-Jewish women. But we can assist victims of domestic violence establish their safety. We can do this by learning about domestic violence, offering educational programming, developing awareness about our community's resources, such as Jewish Women's Aid. And we do this by developing relationships with local shelters and advocates so that we can make appropriate referrals. We do this when we listen to people and believe them, when we listen and hear that someone says that they've been abused. And we do this when we speak with kindness and respect for one another and refuse to tolerate demeaning speech or behaviour in our midst. And we do this when we speak out as an entire community against abuse. And as a community, we must hold abusers accountable for their behaviour. And this requires us to take a stand and remember that we cannot watch as neutral bystanders. And we can remind ourselves that patterns can and must be broken. The parashah that we read this morning is tricky. It's tricky because it reminds us that our ancestors were far from perfect. It reminds us of squabbling and destructive relationships between siblings. It reminds us of parents who love one child more than another. And it reminds us of when families can be destructive or how behaviour can be taught to our children for the bad as well as to the good. As Dr. Judith Plaskow said, the Torah makes clear that our ancestors are by no means always models of ethical behaviour that edify and inspire us. On the contrary, often the Torah holds up a mirror to the ugliest aspects of human nature and human society. It provides us with opportunities to look honestly at ourselves and the world we've created, to reflect on destructive patterns of human relating and to ask how we might address them and change them. Domestic violence is something we all need to take responsibility for and recognise that we all need to be part of the change. Society, synagogues and individuals need to issue a clear message that domestic violence of any kind will not be tolerated. And so to conclude this sermon, I'd like to read this Misha Beirach written by the Jewish Women's International Clergy that addresses the needs of families touched by domestic violence. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Sarah, Rebecca, Leah, and Rachel, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, provide protection, compassion, care, and healing for all those who have known violence and abuse within their families. May those who have been harmed find pathways to understanding and wholeness, and those who have caused harm find their way to repentance and peace. May our community be a source of support for those who've suffered in silence or shame. May those whose homes have become places of danger find their way to Sukkot Shalom, a shelter of safety, and let us say, Amen. And we continue back to our service with the Aleinu, which you can find on page 520, page 520.
Aleinu l'shabbat Adon HaKol, לתת גלולה ליוצא בראשית, אשר שם חלקנו יחד את שמו, וגבור עלינו להביק מלכותו, ואנחנו כהנים ומשחרים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שבונות השמיים ויסר הארץ, ושבים קרוב השמיים ממעל, ושכינת וזרוע, ושכינת וזרוע, וכובד מרומים, ואלוהינו ואלוהינו, באמת מלכנו ופסולתו,
Trusting in you, eternal God, we hope soon to behold the glory of your might, when false gods will vanish from our hearts and idolatry cease forever. Help us to perfect the world by bringing it under your unchallenged rule, when all will invoke your name, relinquish evil, and turn to you alone. May all who dwell on earth come to know that to you every knee must bend and every tongue swear loyalty. Before you let them humble themselves, and to your glorious name let them give honor. Let all submit to your sovereign rule. May that time come soon and last forever, for ultimate sovereignty is yours, and to all eternity you'll reign in glory. As it is written, the Eternal One shall reign forever.
ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
It is hard to feel serene when our world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our lives have gone. Yet in the emptiness their passing leaves behind, we are not alone. For we have the companionship of the living, and even our loved ones who have died live on in our hearts. For what they were is part of what we have become. We honor them best when we live as they would wish, responsibly and happily, and even in the shadow of our loss, so draw closer to the source of life, in whom every life finds meaning, purpose, and hope. And this Shabbat, we're thinking particularly of Gertrudis Camilo, the mother of Maria Landau, of Fernando Camilo, the aunt of Maria, of Norman Kay, a friend of Lindsay Cohen, of Robert Gelman, the husband of Vera, of Marilyn Finley, the mother of Joseph, of Lily Landau, the mother-in-law of Maria, of David Parnell, the husband of Elaine, of Lucinda Rodriguez, the aunt of Maria Landau, of Lillian Solomon, the mother of Aubrey Scott, of Millie Tapper, the mother of Evelyn Ruse, of Martin Zantz, the father of Kevin. And if there are other names that people would like to say before we continue with Kaddish, please feel free to say them now. For those then that we have named out loud, for those that we will always name in our hearts, and for all those who no longer have anyone to say Kaddish for them, we say, Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, v'gala v'zman kariv ve'emuru. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mavrach le'olam ulmel maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'pa'av v'mam v'nasei. V'yitadav v'talei v'talal shemei d'kudusha b'richu. Le'olam min kol b'rchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechemata. Diamiran b'yalma b'imuru. Amen. Yehei shlamar Rabbah min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imuru. Amen. Osei shalom b'mromav. Uyasei shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol b'nei Adam v'imuru. Amen. May the Most High Source of perfect peace grant peace to us, to all Israel, and to all humanity. And let us say, Amen.
Thank you, Charlie. We now, this is normally our announcement.
Yes, classic.
That's right, John. Well, not an announcement, just a thank you, a massive thank you, Charlie, for taking the service. Your sermon was very thought-provoking, and I like the way you brought it to how it is now from our patriarchs. And nothing's changed really, has it? But thank you very much for an absolutely wonderful, uplifting service, especially because the time for me as well is what I needed as well, as I remember my father. And I mean, the first thing Charlie said to me when she was invited to take the service, can you make sure Joseph is singing, or is Joseph singing? Because otherwise we'd have had to put with Charlie's singing or mine. So, and I think both of you would probably agree that would have been so good. I know we had a few gremlins today, but these things happen. But again, thank you, Joseph, for manfully sort of trying to keep it going, and I wish you long life and strength as well. Right, thinking ahead, right, next Friday will be Brendan will be leading the joint service with Reform. Ironically, last night I actually did tune into the Reform service, and there was more Liberals there by quite a few. So I think it's now reached a point where the other side sort of, either it's curiosity or something different, where it seems to be better supported by the other community. But it'd be nice if as many of us as possible support Gwendolyn on Friday. And we've got something really exciting for next Shabbat. Obviously Rabbi Rachel will be leading, but it'll be joined with Birmingham Progressive, and it'll be Margaret Jacoby, who I think's got family links with our community. So it will be a collaborative two-way service, which always goes down well. So we really look forward to that. Now I'm going to share my screen again, and hopefully something appropriate will come up. Here we go. I just want to draw your attention to sort of what's going on in our community. So it'd be great if we could support these. There's something going on almost every day. So if you can see from my screen, Sunday, November the 22nd, that's tomorrow, Rafi Berg will be giving a presentation on the story of the Red Sea spies. That sounds absolutely fascinating. And obviously it gives some good sort of like history lesson of what happened sort of in the past. So we look forward to that, and then the link to the services actually is on the website. And then on Tuesday, the 24th, we've got Jeremy Angel presents Angel's Costumes. I don't know if everyone's aware of that very big sort of shop where they had kind of outfits for theatre. He'll be talking about all the different costumes that they had supplied for many famous people. Again, the links are on the website. And if you've got nothing better to do on Thursday, you can have an informal chat with Harry Grant on Zoom, who's the chairman of the Reform. And just one more thing, Sunday week, there's a quiz, John Mashmore's quiz, which I warn you is incredibly difficult. But if you want to test the grey matter, I recommend that. So that's me done for announcements. Anybody else want to add anything? Put your hand up. And Alan, no. Oh, Adrian.
Yeah, it's not an announcement. I'd just like to say thank you, Charlie, for the service. I know Kevin thanked you already, and thank you for a really good sermon. So thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you, Adrian. Anybody else before we go to the closing hymn? Okay, Joseph, go for it.
We're doing a Don Lam. 525. As if you need me to tell you to do that.
Biado afkid ruchi, bieti shan viaira, biimruchi gaviati Adonai li belo era. Into your hand I place my soul, asleep, awake, for you are near, and with my soul, my body too. You are my God, I shall not fear. Shabbat shalom, everybody. And thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Joseph, for singing. Thank you for inviting me. And Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Free to unmute
Shabbat shalom.
everybody as we do Kiddush. Is anyone want to actually lead Kiddush? Have we got any volunteers? Maybe Stephen or Danielle, if you wish, or maybe not. It's not.
Want me to do it?
Yeah, go for it, Stephen.
Okay. V'shamru Yisrael et HaShabbat, La'asot et HaShabbat, the Dorotam Berinolas, Teni Uvem Bene Israel, Otileolam, Geshet Yamim Asaronai, Et Hashamayim, Et Haaretz, Uvayom Ashvi, Baruch atah
Adonai,
Eloheinu
Eloheinu melech haolam,
borei pri
hagafen. Amen.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, next service. Yeah. Have you got colour?
Yep.
Normally that's what it has. There's only one, yeah, and a few people want it. Early for me.
Baruch atah
Adonai,
Eloheinu melech
melech
haolam,
haolam,
hamotzi lechem min
haaretz. Amen. This way of disappearing color.
It looks like you're on drugs, Stephen.
Yes. People come in the room, the background.
All I can say is, whatever you want, can I have some? Okay.
Enjoy.
I'll be drinking the wine of lawlessness. That's what came up in the Haftorah later.
I was just amazed by the time. We finished exactly at 1:30.
Wow, that is God,
pretty impressive.
They would go downstairs. Now, if we were going downstairs, they would be really impressed. They'd get a warm welcome.
Yeah, it's
regards to your parents
downstairs, you know, and make sure that we all hit the same time.
Oh, hello. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, guys.
Shabbat shalom, Dad.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, George.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom, Daniel.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Hello there, young lovely young lady.
Hello,
I've
hello.
not seen you for a while.
Linda.
Have you been good? Hey, Jason. That's Josh's young lady. Yeah, yeah.
Hello, Olivia. Hi.
Long life, Kevin and Maria.
Thank you.
Well done, Charlie, passing the name test.
Yes, you did. Yes, she did.
I don't know how well I did there.
Very well, very well. About 9.5 out of 10.
How much out of 10?
Oh dear.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Oh well, that's certainly did. No, they get the different pronunciations of my name, but at least with Zion.
We did. Oh, yes, thank you. Anyway,
Zion,
yes, thank you.
I get all.
You can stay.
Thanks to Joseph as usual.
Yes, thank you, Joseph.
Thank
Shabbat
you.
shalom, everybody. See you soon.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, Charlie. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Probably a boring meeting.
Bye.
Okay. So,
Kevin, bye-bye. I wish you long life.
thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Linda.
And wish you long life, Kevin. And you'll be pleased to know I won't be here next week.
Oh,
You have a service, and like you've got collaborative service. We've got Danny Rich taking our service, and he also does 3 counties. So we will go to their service on Friday, and they will come to our service on Saturday. So that's me up for next weekend.
Okay.
We can't keep people doing it. Okay, so Shabbat shalom, Vanya, Shabbat shalom, Maria.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shalom.
Long life. Shabbat
No,
shalom.
no one
All
else.
the best.
Bye.